Stop showing Tristar so much love. What's up, guys? It's the Ginger
and the Bear,
and I missed you bastards. That being said, we are going to talk about the most overrated thing in all of MMA, and that is you hitting the like button. Just kidding. It's the most underrated thing because it helps with the YouTube algorithm.
But the most overrated gym is
Tristar.
Yep.
Tristar. If you have a conversation with anybody who is not an absolute road casual, because why would you even talk to them? I just spit in their direction. I don't conversate with them. That being said, and you ask them, hey man, what do you think are the best gyms in MMA? Who do you think are the best coaches?
They'll say Tristar right away.
They'll always say Tristar. Tristar is, if it's not their number one, it's 100% in their top 3, or at worst their top 5.
Yeah.
Now, even Joe Rogan shills for Tristar. That's right. I'm going Eddie Bravo on this one.
More for Faraz, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah. But I mean, Faraz is Tristar.
Of course,
right?
Of course.
Faraz is Tristar. And I think that it's interesting when you see Rogan, whenever a fighter is having troubles, and it's something that seems to be attributable not to their physical attributes.
Send them to Tristar. Yeah. Send them to Tristar.
If it's strategic, if it's mental, the solution Rogan always proposes on his podcast, he even does it in UFC broadcasts, is why don't they go to Tristar, work with Faraz? Faraz is such a great coach. He makes champions. He makes fighters a better version of themselves. Well, I am here today to tell you that Faraz Sahabi does neither of those things except with George St. Pierre.
Yeah.
So, Tristar has produced how many champions, Alex? One champion. One UFC champion, George St. Pierre. George St. Pierre is also one of the freakiest athletes the UFC has ever seen. His VO2 max, even Faraz Sahabi, to his credit, will tell you George is an endurance freak. When he got measured, the people who ran the tests for his VO2 max were just like, this guy is insane. There's nothing, like, there's no training that could have caused this. He is genetically a monster. On top of that, Faraz Sahabi doesn't deserve all the credit for creating George St. Pierre. Pierre was one of the first UFC fighters to actually create the super camp. He had Greg Jackson that was a main component of strategically crafting the George St. Pierre that we all came to know in his second tenure as champion, where he was being much more strategically safe, taking a lot less risks. That was a lot down to Greg Jackson, and jiu-jitsu wizard John Danaher. There was a whole team of amazing minds around George St. Pierre, and now revisionist history has made it as if it was Faraz Sahabi and George. Faraz
that came together and built GSP.
And that wasn't the case ever. Like, GSP always had, he even had Freddie Roach on his team. He had 4 or 5 experts, but now all the successes contributed to Faraz, and I'm not saying Faraz is a bad coach by any means. I actually have a lot of respect and a lot of, I really like Faraz.
I don't like Faraz.
I do, but I'm saying, like, I do like Faraz, but he doesn't deserve nearly any of the credit, like, that he's given as one of the best coaches in MMA. A best coach in MMA has to have produced multiple champs. There are many coaches that we can point to, like Rafael Cordero.
Or organizations.
Yeah, or
right?
organizations like American Kickboxing, AKA.
Yeah, AKA.
ATT, American
ATT,
Top
yeah.
Team. Rafael Cordero at Kings MMA has produced a myriad of contenders and champions.
Yep.
So, to put Tristar up with those names, that makes no sense to me.
It doesn't.
Especially when you look at the way Tristar coaches their fighters, they do not take the best attributes of their fighters and give them a strategic game plan to take advantage of their, like, unique abilities and strategies. They sort of make everyone fight the same.
And I know that Tristar is probably not as big as ATT, so you can have an argument like, oh, well,
it's
they
just
don't
volume.
It's the volume,
Yeah.
you know, they don't have the volume, but they have training facilities. I think they have dorms and auditoriums and stuff like that.
They're huge.
They're huge.
They're
giant.
enormous.
They should be producing probably at the same level as ATT.
Yeah.
You know, and AKA doesn't have training.
AKA has comparable volume to Tristar.
Really? Okay.
For sure. Like,
Yeah.
and that's what I'm saying. Like,
And they have way more champions.
if Tristar is this good of a gym, they should have a resume like AKA's. We're not even saying they need to have current active champions. We're not even saying that's whatsoever. We're saying Tristar only has one UFC champion. They only have one true UFC contender ever, and that's Rory.
Oh yeah.
And like that's it. And then there's nobody else. And to act
But that's
like,
all not this generation.
Yeah, it's also
GSP
not even this generation.
Yeah, it has moved on. If you could even have an argument for it.
And I don't think you could ever have had an argument for it. Like Jackson had multiple champs at once.
Right.
Cordero at Kings MMA, ATT, AKA. I don't think TriStar even I think Elevation Fight Team right now is better than TriStar. Oh no, I'm not even kidding.
Yeah.
Like and you look at their fighters and you look at fighters that go to them, I don't see development when fighters switch to TriStar. This last weekend was perfect. It was a perfect damn example. Johnny Walker, Kevin Lee did not develop at TriStar at all.
And before this, so like with our other videos, we were saying that the one major thing about TriStar is that they can take freak athletes and make them into champions. Now, this fight card was supposed to be the resurrection of Kevin Lee and Johnny Walker.
Yeah.
Right? And Kevin Lee sucked in every single regards versus Charles Oliveira.
He looked like he had regressed in every single aspect of the fight game.
He looked awful. There were some slight moments, but he got fucked up by Charles Oliveira. And the same and Johnny Walker got wrestle fucked.
And it was really bad too, because Kevin Lee, like, his striking defense didn't look any better.
No, it didn't.
His striking offense on the ground didn't look any better. Johnny Walker's takedown and grappling in general, maybe it looked slightly better, but his striking didn't look any better. And that's why I just think it's such a misnomer, and it needs to stop, especially Joe Rogan. Please, baby. Joe Rogan, baby, please. Please. TriStar is not the catch-all solution to every fighter's problem. It's probably not the solution to 99% of fighters' problems.
It's city kickboxing. City kickboxing.
City
that's
kickboxing.
Our endorsement.
City kickboxing, if anything, right? They have shown that they actually will tailor the strategy and game plan to the fighter that they're coaching
or
and the
AKA,
fighter they're fighting.
Or ATT.
Well, it's so immensely frustrating. Like, I don't think TriStar's even top 5, maybe not even top 10 of current MMA gyms in the world.
I would say City Kickboxing, AKA, are even. That's what I would think. And then I would say ATT.
I think ATT has to be up there too, just because they have crazy good vault. Well,
of course,
their record's amazing.
But I think that, oh man, you're right. They're overall they have been able to innovate every single generation.
Bro, Team Alpha Male has more champions than TriStar.
Ooh.
Team Alpha Male has more champions than TriStar historically.
Yeah, that's true.
Why aren't you sending them to Uriah Faber? Like, I think Faraz is a smart guy. I like hearing him talk about fights. I like hearing him break stuff down. But you have to look, like, if you're a 1% fighter and you're like trying to find a amazing coach, Eugene, City Kickboxing.
Yeah.
100%.
And if you have a good wrestling base, AKA.
Yeah, 100%.
100%.
I don't understand where this narrative comes from. It doesn't make sense to me. I think it's just because Rogan likes Faraz, and I think a lot of people just parrot what Rogan says. Honestly, I just don't understand. I think Frankie Edgar's coach is a more proven resume. Yeah. I think Demetrius Johnson, Mark Henry, his coach that's a more proven resume.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's the same thing too, where you look at like the problem with Jackson MMA, Jackson Wink now, right? Is that Mike Winklejohn teaches every fighter to strike the same exact way, right? I see the same thing with TriStar in a lot of ways, and it's not a way that's actually particularly defensively sound either.
No.
And I think that's the frustration, is if TriStar was, even if they weren't producing champions, if you could really look at their fighters and be like, okay, well, they're not producing champs, but I see what they were working with, they made that fighter. And they got that fighter into the UFC when they had no business being there. Look at how amazing their stratagems are. Like, if every fighter at TriStar was a Ryan Hall, then I'd be like, oh yeah, TriStar's damn what the place to be. But Ryan Hall is the exception at TriStar. And I think if you look at the body of work, that's down to Ryan Hall, not Faraz Sahabi.
It seems with the problem with TriStar is that the people that become champions, I will say, except with Rory McDonald, those people could be champions on their own.
GSP...
He could go to any gym.
Yeah.
Not any gym, but like he could train himself and still be a top contender.
GSP also didn't think that Faraz and TriStar was sufficient for his career. He still had John Danaher. He still went down to Renzo's. He still had Greg Jackson. He still had Freddie Roach. Like, if GSP, their one champion, wasn't adequate, like, you don't see that happening with guys out of ATT or AKA.
You don't see Daniel Cormier going to all kinds of fucking gyms and stuff like that.
And I'm not saying that. I don't think that's bad. I think that's a credit to GSP. I'm just saying, if GSP himself wasn't like, oh, TriStar is the end-all, be-all, fix-all to my problem, and he's their only champion, why are you prescribing TriStar as a fix for Kevin Lee's, for Johnny Walker's of the world.
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine Johnny Walker at City Kickboxing?
Oh wow, that would be insane.
Can you like?
No, I would like that. That would be
legitimately,
crazy.
right?
Yeah.
And I just don't understand. This is my biggest pet peeve in MMA. Stop showing TriStar so much love.
TriStar shit. If you guys disagree with us, please let us know. Give the comments. This is my friend's #1 pet peeve. He hates TriStar with a passion. I don't know if you can tell. Anyway.
That being said, Ginger,
Bear,
we're at.